Hello children, welcome back to our English class. Today I am going to explain the poem line by line. Let's start. The most important thing we have learned so far as the children are concerned is never let them near your television set, or better still, just don't install the idiotic thing at all. So, addressing all the British parents, the poet tells them that the most important thing they must know while bringing up their children is to keep them away from the television set. The parents should not allow their children to watch the television. He also says that it is possible to come to a better solution to the problem by not installing a television set in their homes in the first place. Now, let's see what is there next. In almost every house we have watched them gaping at the screen. They loll and slop and lounge about and stare until their eyes pop out. Last week in someone's place we saw a dozen eyeballs on the floor. So what is meant by these lines? The poet shares his experience. The poet shares his experience by speaking in a way as if he had made a long research on evil effects of watching television by visiting a large number of households in Britain. In almost every house he had watched that the children are gaping at the screen. They are glued to the screen. They were staring with their eyes wide open and with absolute concentration of mind. For sitting a long time before the television set, they become tired. Sometimes they sit or lie in a lazy and casual manner and get sloppy. But still, they stare at the television until their eyes are too tired to watch any more. Their eyes pop out. So, their eyes becomes tired to watch any more. That is what is meant by their eyes pop out. The poet humorously, comically, ironically says that a week ago he saw a dozen eyeballs of children lying on the floor in one house because of watching the television excessively. The poet means to say that half a dozen children were sitting on the floor at someone's house very recently and were watching television constantly and fixedly. Right? Now, let's see what has been said next. They sit and stare. They sit and stare and sit until they are hypnotized by it. Until they are hypnotized by it. Until they are absolutely drunk with all that shocking, ghastly junk. Oh, yes, we know it keeps them still. They don't climb out the window sill. They never fight or kick or punch. They leave you free to cook the lunch and washes the dish in the sink. But did you ever stop to think? So, in these lines actually, the poet is saying that when the children are before the advent of television, when the children actually sits before the television, they sit and keep on staring until they get completely engrossed in the visuals. They sit fixedly at one place as if they were hypnotized by some power. They don't seem to be moving from there, as they probably forget everything around them in the real world. Rather, the one they watch on the television becomes real for the time being. The poet knows that the television keeps the naughty children calm. When they are in front of the television set, they no more do mischievous things. What are the mischievous things? Poet has also mentioned, like climbing out the windowsill, fighting, kicking, punching. They let the mother free to cook the lunch and wash the dishes in the sink without any disturbance. But that cannot be the excuse to let the children sit before a television. Right, children? So, because of it, the poet thinks that the idiotic device does more harm than good, and the parents should think on it twice before allowing their children to watch the television. They might get free to do their own work, but this is not a ready solution. Now let's see what has been said next. But did you ever stop to think, to wonder just exactly what this does to your beloved tot? It rots the sense in the head. It kills imagination dead. See, students, how important just to emphatically appeal the parents. He has written these 2 lines in capital letters. In capital letters, he has mentioned, just to draw the attention of the readers who happen to be the parents, who could happen to be the parents also. What it says? It clogs and clutters up the mind. It makes a child so dull and blind, he can no longer understand the fantasy of fairyland. His brain becomes as soft as cheese, his powers of thinking rust and freeze. So the brain freeze will happen if they keep on watching the television. He cannot think, he only sees. Right, students, actually the negative, the ill effects, the evil effects of watching television, these are fatal for the children, and children are beloved to their parents. The poet wanted to emphatically make an appeal to the parents that, see, these are the ill effects that television is bringing upon to your child. So you must be alarmed. So you must be alert also. So in order to draw the attention of the parents, poet has written all this line in capital letters. He has enlisted the negative effects of watching the television, the harm the television watching can do to their beloved kids. So what is actually the poet trying to say? The poet speaker now asks the parents where they have ever spent a moment to think exactly what harm this television does to their loving child. He himself answers it in a brilliant way. He has written all these lines in capital letters, and he is stating that watching the television regularly for several hours damages the sense in the head of their children. It gradually stops the progress of their power of understanding and imagining things around them. The television fills their minds of the youngsters with so much material and other stuff that they hardly think, that they hardly remain capable to think and imagine freely of their own. The children are drawn away from the reality, the real world around them. They just believe what they watch without considering the context, their own environment match with their ones they see on the screen, but still they think all that are real and applicable to them. The poet is of the opinion that by watching television the brain becomes soft like a cheese. Children now believe everything they watch or hear on the television. They cannot find their own logic to analyze and interpret the things. The power of thinking, the thought process freezes and gets rusty gradually. All they do is watching and believing what others say on the television. Right? Now let's see what's been said next. All right, you will cry. All right, you will say. But if we take the set away, what shall we do to entertain our darling children? Please explain. We'll answer this by asking you. We'll answer this by asking you what used the darling ones to do. How used they keep themselves contented before this monster was invented? Have you forgotten? Don't you know? We'll say it very loud and slow. What we will say very loud and slow? They used to read. They had read and read and read and read and then proceed to read some more. Great Scott, gadzooks. So, what has been said over here is that the poet says that he knows what the readers or especially the parents would ask him. The question is how the parents will entertain their loving children if they keep the television set away from them. The poet answers. The poet answers to these questions only by throwing a question instead to the parents, that how they used to keep themselves entertained when the television was not invented. The television is a dreaded device, a monster to him. The poet asks them to recall the days of their childhood. The poet himself reminds them that children in earlier times used to read lots and lots of books. Surprisingly, people then spent half of their lifetime by reading books. Now, students, after this, what has been said is that one half their lives were reading books. The nursery shelves held books galore. Books cluttered up the nursery floor, and in the bedroom by the bed more books were waiting to be read. Such wondrous, fine, fantastic tales of dragons, gypsies, queens and wells, and treasure isles and distant shores, where smugglers rowed and muffled oars, and pirates wearing purple pants, and sailing ships and elephants, and cannibals crouching round the pot, stirring away at something hot. Right. It smells so good, what can it be? Good gracious, it's Penelope. So what has been meant by the poet till here is that the poet himself reminds the readers and the parents that in those days the nursery shelves were full of books. Right. The nursery shelves were full of books. In nursery shelves, books remained scattered on the floor. Even in their homes, they had great store of books. The books were seen lying even in the bedrooms. There were only books everywhere. Then the poet talks about the popular books which the children used to read in their spare time. The children used to read wonderful stories about huge monsters, gypsies, queens, princes, wells, treasure islands. In some of the stories, the smugglers and the sea robbers used to operate in the boats with covered oars. Oars. There were stories of elephants and cannibals. The cannibals used to eat a very sweet smelling dish named after Penelope.